Well, it looks like I remembered the password to this channel. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the Thary's YT channel, the channel where I can basically talk about anything I want in a casual way. In today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sony working on a handheld console to apparently compete with Nintendo. Now, this is via Bloomberg, and I just thought this was a really interesting bit of news, bit of information. If you don't know much about me, I'm a big gamer. In fact, right here, I have my PlayStation 5 controller. I also have a Nintendo Switch, so I have a vested interest in this topic. I don't have an Xbox, because really, who does? But I do have a lot of interest in the idea of a PlayStation handheld. But there's other things that I think this says about the current gaming industry and where we're at that I'd like to talk about. So let's just get right into it. And if you are new around here, which let's face it, you are, subscribe. I'm probably going to start using this channel a bit more just to talk about things that I wouldn't normally get the opportunity to. So let's dive right in. Sony working on handheld console for PS5 to rival the Switch. Nintendo Switch has dominated mobile console space for years. Rival Microsoft is also developing portable gaming prototypes. So yeah, the Microsoft thing has been known for some time that they're going to develop some form of Xbox type handheld. I know that Phil Spencer, who's the lead at Xbox, has been saying for a while that he loves devices like the Rogue Ally and other such devices like that and the Steam Deck, but obviously, due to the fact that they're not on one enclosed ecosystem, they have problems. If you've ever tried one of those Windows handhelds, you'll know that they can be a bit of a pain to set up because Windows just isn't really designed to be used in a handheld console form factor, and Microsoft basically want to solve that problem. I do wonder how well a Xbox handheld will do specifically, because of the fact that Xbox games are now so widely accessible via the Game Pass service that I think that the idea of getting an Xbox-specific handheld won't have much allure when you can just get the same games on any other handheld device that plays PC games. But we'll see. But the idea of a Sony handheld specifically interests me, because I think they're realizing that they kind of fumbled the bag with this one. Sony has a really bad habit of basically just having one thing flop and then never trying it again. The PSP, whilst not as successful as the DS, sold something like 80 million units, and I loved the PSP. I think it's a really cool console. Obviously, it's great for modding and stuff as well. But as soon as the PS Vita flopped, they were like, that's it. There's no money in the handheld space. Let's just go back to making consoles. And that has broadly been successful for them. But you look at the success of the Nintendo Switch and it proves that there is a market for these things. And I think they're finally cottoning on to that fact. But it also speaks, I think, to how ahead of the game Nintendo are when it comes to the gaming industry and where it's headed. But let's just get into the article. Sony Corporation is in the early stages of developing a portable console that would play its PlayStation 5 games on the move. So the thing that I find interesting about this is essentially, would this just be a portable PS5 not having its own games, or would it have its own software? Because I think if it was just a portable PS5, I imagine it would do decently well, but I think it would do better if it had some unique software. Because one of the key reasons the Switch has been so successful is that their library is so strong. It's got so many exclusive games, and I think just doing a PS5 in handheld, it would certainly sell, quite a few million units. I would buy one probably, there's no doubt about that, but I think it needs to have something else beyond that. Maybe it would be able to play like PlayStation 6 games via streaming in a similar fashion to the PlayStation Portal, which currently exists. The product is aimed at expanding Sony's reach and contending with Nintendo Co. for the portable gaming market. According to people familiar with development, it would also counter potential mobile hardware from Xbox maker Microsoft Corp, which is working on prototypes in the category as well. Sony's portable device is likely years away from launch, and the company could still decide against bringing it to market, the people said, not to be named, discussing private plans. The idea builds on the PlayStation Portal, an 8-inch handheld device Sony released in 2023 that allows users to play PS5 games by streaming them over the internet. And my personal thought on that is, one, we owe the Wii U an apology, because that's literally what the Wii U was. And two, I don't really have much of a use case for the PlayStation Portal personally. I don't know about anyone else, obviously in the UK. At least for me, my internet could be spotty at times, so the idea of playing games purely via streaming is not one that particularly appeals to me. So I would personally much prefer a dedicated handheld device from Sony, and I was kind of disappointed that that's not what the Portal was. So then rectifying that mistake does interest me. Tokyo-based Sony initially had intended for it to function as a standalone device like Valve Corp's Steam Deck, the people said. That's interesting. So apparently they originally thought that the PlayStation Portal was going to be a Steam Deck-like device. I actually did have a Steam Deck for a short time, and I did enjoy it. My one issue is, and I think it's going to be true for a lot of these handhelds for a little while, is when you have a handheld that powerful, the battery output is not great. I can only get like an hour and a half on most games, and for me personally, that's like not worth it for the portability because you've got to charge it so frequently. So I think that that's something that these companies are going to have to solve, and hopefully they do. Building a mobile device that's capable of directly playing PS5 games would potentially make Sony's software more accessible and appealing to a wider audience. The company has taken several steps in recent times in the right direction, including making a bigger push into mobile and PC gaming as well as live services. That's an interesting one because obviously Microsoft have been doing the day-and-date release on PC and other platforms as well, and I don't think that's been working out for them. I think the difference with Sony is they wait a year at least until their exclusives go multi-platform so that at least there is an incentive to stay with PlayStation, whereas with Xbox, there's no real point in having the box. You might as well just have a computer. Which is why I think, personally, in a few years' time, Microsoft will probably go the way of Sega and just become a third-party publisher. They'd probably make more money that way anyway, to be honest. Especially considering that Microsoft is mainly a software company anyway. You know, the bulk of their revenue doesn't come from building PCs, it comes from creating software, i.e. Windows, that PCs use. Mobile gaming, which brings in a bulk of the industry's revenue each year, is today dominated by smartphones. Nintendo's Switch console has carved out a lucrative niche for itself by offering versatility of being playable on both the Move and connected to a TV set. Its successor is set to be released in 2025 and will retain the Switch's rich library of existing titles, which is a very good move, potentially sparking an upgrade cycle among users of the nearly 8-year-old console. I'm very excited for the Switch successor. That might be a separate video in and of itself, but yeah, I'm very excited for it. Sony and Microsoft have not competed with their own portable gaming hardware for years. I mean, Microsoft never has made portable gaming hardware, to my knowledge. Following popular but ultimately unsuccessful launches like the PS Vita and PlayStation Portable, which were discontinued a decade ago. I mean, the PlayStation Portal was a success. Obviously, again, not as successful as the DS, which I think, in Sony's eyes, makes it a failure because they have to be the best at everything they do. But 80 million units is nothing to scoff at, and I honestly don't know why they didn't try and continue building on that, because they probably would have had something. I think the core issue is that they didn't put their big teams on the PSP. They kind of used the sub-teams, which made the PSP feel less essential than the DS and 3DS did, that feel like, oh, they're actually just as valid as the Nintendo home consoles are. Which is why I think that Nintendo blending their handheld and home console divisions together makes so much sense, because they never really did distinguish between the two. They were always making console quality games for both versions of their systems. Whereas with Sony, you always kind of did feel like you were playing a handheld game when you were playing a PSP game, as opposed to the big console experience. So the idea of bringing PlayStation 5 games in their entirety to handhelds is an enticing one, and I probably would buy one. But I think the funniest thing about this to me is that Nintendo called all of it. They called the rise of handheld gaming post the 2010s, post-smartphone. They called the idea that eventually too many powerful consoles would end up cannibalizing each other, which is exactly what's happening with Microsoft and Xbox. They even called the rise of casual gaming on smartphones via the DS. Even streaming with things like the Portal, like I said, that's the Wii U. That's what the Wii U did. I just find it really funny how, like, and it's not to say that, oh, I think Nintendo are the greatest company of all time. They do some scummy things, but they do seem about 10 years ahead of the curve in terms of where industry trends are going to be, and I think they deserve a little bit of credit for that, because in the end it feels like they won. You know, we for years went, come on Nintendo, stop trying to be wacky, just make normal consoles, people will buy them, but they figured out a niche in the market that's even more lucrative, and you know what? Fair play to them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Are you interested in a PlayStation handheld? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. Please like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.